What's up, guys? Welcome to Girls on Fire ATX. I'm your host, Samantha.
And I'm your host, Esther.
What's up? Happy Monday, babe.
Happy Monday.
How are we doing today?
We're doing good. I'm feeling very good. I'm feeling very positive. I'm feeling really happy.
We love to hear it. Didn't you just get back from a trip recently?
I did.
Tell me about it.
I just came back from a trip to Tucson, which is my hometown. And I've mentioned it before that it gives me lots of anxiety to go back home just because it just reminds me of just really like the kind of person that I was before and that kind of stuff. And so I actually went back to this trip because my dad, he's 88. He has dementia, although he won't admit it. His brain.
They never do.
I feel good for my age. He's just lived a really cool life. And I'm coming to terms with his age and, you know, his health issues and that, you know, at any point he could leave. He lives in an assisted living home. My sister Sandy takes wonderful care of him. So it just basically was one of those things that I saw on Facebook of somebody recording their father. I think it was their father or their grandparent and just asking questions about their life so my name, Esther, is his mother's name. I know nothing. Well, I know very little about my grandmother. And for so many years, it's bothered me being named after this woman who's a badass in a sense from like how highly talked she is.
Right.
And not knowing anything about her. And I keep going back and forth if I want kids or not. But more so, it's just I'd like to have a video of him telling his life story from his perspective. So if anybody ever has questions in the family or if I have kids, that they'll know who he is and it's coming from his voice. Like,
yeah, it'd just be a cool little memoir to have.
Mm-hmm. Like, there was a lot that I learned. Like, I knew my dad was a pilot. Like, he had his own planes, but I didn't even know he had his own flight school. He had his own flight school. And I was like, what? You know, there's so much that he did. Like, he ran for state senate. He was a really big animal activist. Like, he stopped people hunting bears in Mount Lemmon. There's a story that he told, but basically there's these two kids that were antagonizing this mom bear, and the mom bear attacked the two kids, and everybody went crazy for it. And it's like, well, why are we going to kill this bear if she was just protecting her cubs just because these two boys antagonized the bear?
Right.
Like, that's not fair to the bear just because, yes, the bear did what it could to protect himself, but I don't think that's fair. And a lot of people were arguing that, but my dad ended up becoming like the thing for it. He ended up getting gifted a bear from, I forget what.
How ironic. Don't kill the bear, but here's a bear.
Like a little stuffed animal bear for basically like, thank you for saving this bear.
Yeah.
And it's just cool. Like a lot of people in Tucson, like he was one of the first people to sell color TVs. My dad, you know, like he lived a really cool life. You know, he's had ups and downs, and a lot of the stuff that I struggled with was just not like I didn't experience during the highlight of his reel, right?
Mm-hmm.
I got to experience him when he was 60 years old, which is when he had me, and I got to see a different side of my dad. And so it was just really cool. I got to really connect with my sister Sandy. Like, she got to know a little bit more about me, and it was just really nice. Like, finally, like, it feels good to feel like I'm accepted because, like, I really got to get to know her, and she was just really more intrigued. Like, I had no idea. Like, she didn't know how I grew up with my mom or, like.
Sometimes it takes, like, something to happen. Not necessarily dramatic, but I know that my sister and I, not that we weren't ever close, but I know that it wasn't until my mom had her stroke that my sister and I are the closest we've ever been.
Isn't
so,
that weird?
you know, yeah. So it's like even though, again, like we weren't not close, but I talk to my sister every day, if not 2 or 3 times a day sometimes. So, and we were never like that before.
Mm-hmm. I'm actually like that with my sister Cindy. Mm-hmm. I'm very protective of her. I love her very much. She's annoying as fuck. She does listen to this podcast. So hi, Cindy. I love you, but you get on my nerves.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't trade her for anything else.
Yeah.
It's just crazy because like her and I also had our own differences. But my Nana Carmen, I also went to film her too. She's a woman that was a very impactful woman in mine and my sister's life, mostly for my sister. And listening to like how my sister, like, cause I left my mom's house when I was 11 and I didn't realize how it impacted my sister. Like, cause we don't have the same dad. So like my sister was like really sad about, I had no idea. And it broke my heart because I never wanted to hurt her or anything like that. It's just like, from my point of view, it's like, I didn't think anybody liked me. So I wanted to go where I was wanted and where I think.
Absolutely.
But now that I'm older, her and I have a really great relationship. And she's a mother now, and I'm very close with my niece. Like, we try to do like traditions where she'll come and spend like the summers with me before she'll start school. And it's just really cool because it's like, for a very long time before COVID, like the height of my drinking was because, you know, I suppressed so much trauma, right? And people do that, and then they think that I'm not wanted. My family doesn't love me. I'm not accepted. I'm not cool. Like, you know, you keep beating yourself down. It's like affirmations, right?
Yeah.
Where you keep beating yourself down, but until you start healing and being like, look, like there's nothing you can do to change your story or how you came about, but
yeah,
changing that mindset of maybe being more appreciative. Like, instead of me being like, yeah, I'm the black sheep of my family, or being like, you know, yes, but like, look at how it's made me stronger.
Right.
And I can sit here and blame them for not reaching out to me, or I can take the initiative and reach out to them. Because it's really cool, because like, I've never related more to like having that sister connection when it comes to a parent that like probably doesn't understand. And then it's not to discredit that, but like, both my parents are very unemotionally available parents. They don't know how to talk about their emotions. They're very distant. But, you know, you have to think about how they grew up and all that stuff. But, like, I know you and I relate to that a lot, because how close you are with your sister is how close I am with mine.
Right.
And it's like a really cool bond.
Well, it's cool because I know we've had this conversation before, but it's more or less like realizing I've had conversations with my sister and brother, because obviously some of our episodes have stirred the pot in like
I know.
both of our families,
Same.
you know, and it really, and I will repeat this now, like, at no point has any episode that I put out about my trauma or your trauma or things I've experienced or the way that I've interpreted my life meant that I had a bad life. I didn't have a bad life. And it's just realizing now as an adult that certain things that I experienced as a child weren't normal and have contributed to some of the things of how I am today and how I look at life. And I was talking to my sister a couple of days ago about this, you know. I was like, it really sucks because I have all of these, I don't want to call them traumas, but the way that I am when it comes to like relationships, I don't have the best relationships. And it's a lot of the reason is because of how I saw my mother like do things when I was a kid. But like my sister and my brother have great relationships. Like they're both in like long-term relationships. My sister's married with kids, and that's because they never had to be around it. And that even now they realize, like, experiencing, like, seeing me being like, wow, like, I didn't put two and two together, you know, until we got older, and I was able to see it from, like, a different perspective. I'm like, that's just the way it is, you know. Mm-hmm. Our parents, the way that our parents were raised, you know, was how they raised us, and it just trickles down. That's why they call it generational curses, and, like, you got to learn to break them.
Yeah. Like, my dad wasn't the best, and I don't want to say this disrespectfully or anything that's going to hurt him, but it's just like my interpretation of it is my dad wasn't really there for his other kids, like as in like going to their games or graduations or.
From the sounds of it, it sounds like he was financially contributing to their life. Mm-hmm. And so in his eyes, I'm sure that he was like, well, I'm providing. So like, just because I'm not around doesn't mean I don't love you, but I'm providing. So this is what I'm doing.
Yeah. Well, my dad also didn't have a dad growing up. He had a stepdad. And mm-hmm. So I don't think that my dad, I think that I shouldn't say, I know it's bothered him that he never got to really know who his dad is. Like his oldest brother was like his father figure.
Right.
My dad also mentioned that Teddy Roosevelt, the president, was like a father figure to him, which is why like I think notoriety and being successful and all that stuff, like how people admire other males, especially like in that era. My dad's born in the 30s, how that, you know, was his mindset. My dad's a big manifester, which is what I've noticed. And he's a big person of law of attraction. Mm-hmm. He never let anybody tell him what to do or what to think. He always went with whatever he wants. And that's how he became successful. One of my cousins, he's actually trying to follow in my dad's footsteps. Like, I guess my dad's like a big, like a legend is what he referred to it. And it's really cool because it's like, looking at it from that point of view, I'm really proud to be his kid. But it makes me sad because like I got to experience my dad. I think he did well with me versus his other kids because like he didn't have somebody else to tell him what to, like it was just me and him. And my dad did, I think, right by me. And I think it kind of like hurt maybe my other siblings, which maybe like caused resentment. But at the time as a kid, I didn't know that. And I just thought that it was just a personal like thing against me when I was already like trying to talk to my dad about things, but he would chalk it up with really like not something that an emotional girl would want to hear. You know what I mean? And like not having a mom that was very emotional, like to talk to, it was just, I was really by myself.
Yeah.
So I really internalized a lot of that. So when I was able to talk to my sister Sandy this past time I was in Tucson, she really helped fill in a lot of gaps for me that made me heal. Like now I'm like, I feel really proud to be his kid. I can't change how things are, but I'd like to make it better, you know? Right. Like we can't change our parents as they get older, and we can't change who they are. We can't change their mindset if they don't want to, but we can change our interpretation of how to handle things, like setting boundaries, healthy boundaries. Like it's like, no, I'm not going to tolerate that. Like I've had to set boundaries with my own mother because my mother is very, she's an, I hate to say this, but she's an Aries. So she's very stubborn and she's very like hard-headed, but she's very quiet. So she's really quick to just like, I remember trying to have conversations with her about how she raised my sister and I, and like, because she'll be like, well, my parents hit me and my parents never told me they love me. And I'm like, and she goes, so I don't understand. And I'm like, so you don't think that what happened to you could have affected your two children? And she's like, no. And I'm like, okay. So imagine a kid coming, like imagine a kid not being told that they're loved and nurtured and everything and just constantly being yelled at. Like, how can you imagine how someone would turn out?
Yeah.
My mom stays quiet about that. And she goes, well, my parents, and I was like, okay, but like,
it's not about what your parents did. Because at the end of the day, like it's funny because I can say this because I've said it. You know, I grew up where we live in an age now where it's like, if you beat your children, you're a bad person. Right. And it's like, well, my parents beat the shit out of me and I turned out just fine.
My mom hit me.
Doesn't make it okay though. And that's the big thing is like at the end of the day, you know, you might have turned out fine. You might be okay. You don't have any like psychological, you're not in a mental hospital. You know, there are things and you have a good job. You have a roof over your head. You're able to provide for yourself. Yes, you turned out okay. But would your life have been better? Would you have not experienced certain things, you know, whether like, I don't know how to word this properly. Like, would you not have gone through spouts of depression? Would you have not? And you know what I'm saying? Like, would you be in a different place mentally had you had the things that you were describing? Probably.
Yeah. I think I got kind of through with my mom on that. But like, I remember when I was younger, I used to cut myself because I just didn't know how to handle anything. I couldn't talk to anybody. I didn't have an adult to talk to. And if I tried to talk to an adult, they'd just be like, you're overreacting, or like you're being too much, like you should be grateful, or blah, blah, blah. Like it was just like, it sucked. And so I used to cut myself, and my dad caught me one time and he just yelled at me. Instead of talking to me about it, he just yelled at me. He basically told me that if I don't stop, he was going to put me in the loony bin. And
which obviously is not the way to handle those situations. But
no. And my sister was there for the conversation, and she was like, from his defense, like, you know, no parent wants to see that. And I was like, I'm aware, but like there was a way to approach it because yes, I did stop cutting, but I found other ways to cope.
Yeah. And the thing is too, though, at the same time, the resources that are available to us now, or even then, were not available to them, and it wasn't talked about. Like that kind of stuff you didn't share with people because my parents were born in the 50s. So those are things that it's like almost taboo, right? It's like, oh, well, we don't discuss those things in public. We don't tell people about those things. Like, you don't, like, those things were always stayed behind closed doors. They're not openly discussed and like, hey, like, if you're sad, call this number. If you're this, you know, talk to this person. They didn't have that back then. So I can see where their reactions to something like that would have been like, what are you doing? Like, why are you doing that? Like, stop. Like, you don't tell anyone, you just need to stop or you're going to be put away. Mm-hmm. You know, like I can see where that mindset would come from. Obviously doesn't make it right.
No, but you can't tell him no.
Yeah.
Like, that's the thing is like, I love my dad. I respect my dad. Like, I'm really proud to be his kid. I just wish that he could have been a little bit more emotional and more nurturing with his kids. And I'm talking about not only myself, but for his other kids, you know, because it's not fair. Like, cause my dad puts it like, my dad's just this iconic man, and everybody idolizes my dad, especially like in the older generation. A lot of the younger generation don't, but like, people idolize him, and it's like, with money, my dad's a big playboy. Let me just put it that way. So with money comes greed, and he hurt a lot of the women in his life. And my dad denies it, like, right now. And it's just really interesting because it's like, Dad, just, we already know. Like, and I'm not trying to paint you out to be the bad guy, but, like, the whole purpose of this film is to show who you really are and your vulnerability. Like, it's not going to be shared with anybody else. It's, like, for people to know, like, if they're struggling with, like, infidelity or, you know, money problems or other stuff, to be honest and raw that, like, you went through that. Mm-hmm. So, you know what I mean? Like, I wanted him to just be honest. And it was just a little frustrating because my dad's like, no, I never cheated on my wives. And it's like, you did. Because you cheated on my mom. You cheated on your ex-wife. You cheated on your wife before that.
Yeah.
And, like, my dad was just notorious, like, playboy. Like, as a kid, like, so many women flocked towards my dad. And it's not a secret. Yeah. But he's just, no, that'll never happen. And it's like, okay. But I love my dad. Like, I am who I am because of my parents. Mm. I don't agree with a lot of the things that they do, and I don't have to, and I don't have to have the same viewpoints as them or anything like that. But if it wasn't for my parents, I wouldn't be here. And if it wasn't for my parents, like, I wouldn't be where I am today. But a lot of it is credit to survival and fight or flight or all that stuff. It's made me who I am today, so I can't change it. I just have to appreciate it and know better. Someone asked me a question of, like, of everything that I've gone through, how did I learn kindness? And, like, how did I learn to have, like, the heart that I do? And I thought about it, and it really honestly goes back to Mr. Rogers. Do you remember that show?
Yeah, they made a movie on that show.
Yeah. I credit a lot of, like, having an open heart and being kind, watching Mr. Rogers on PBS every day that I came home from school, from his little puppet shows, where, like, you know, they'd be like, I'm feeling sad today. But why are you feeling sad today? And then they talk about it, and they make it an okay and a safe environment. And I've always wanted that. I've always wanted my parents to talk to me like that, but they never did.
Oh, yeah. My parents never talked to me like that either. But
yeah, but now, like, knowing that, it's kind of cool how one person reached out to children, and I didn't even know it impacted me till just this question was asked. But, like, it's just insane. Like, I don't want to, like, anything that I'm talking about on this podcast with you, and I feel like you feel the same way. It's not a dig at our families. It's not a dig at people. It's just talking about things from our point of view and how it affected us. And I know there's a lot of people out there that can relate. Like, at the end of the day, like, I will do whatever I can for my parents. I will do whatever I can for my sisters. I just have boundaries now. Yeah. You know?
That was a rude awakening from my mom recently. Is she I mean, we've already discussed this, but she called me and she was like, "What was so wrong with your childhood?" She's like, "I listen to your podcast. It just sounds like a bunch of girls complaining." And I'm like, "Okay, Mom, well, if that's how you feel, then don't listen to it." And then, and she made a jab at me for something else. And I was like, this is not what we're doing today. And I was like, if this is how you're going to talk to me, I'm going to hang up the phone. And I did. And then she ended up sending me like a longer message. And I was like, no, I'm not going to tolerate this. This is exactly what I'm talking about. It's not your decision to tell me how I felt. I was like, I'm entitled to having my own opinion and like how it affected me. And I was like, if you can sit here and tell me right now to my face that I wasn't affected by my childhood, I was like, you'd be lying not only to yourself, but to me. And I ended up having to block her for a little while. I unblocked her recently, and she's been trying to like call me and apologize, but it's like I'm not ready for her apology yet because I don't feel like she really means it. And maybe she does. I don't know. It's, it's not up to me to decide whether she means it or not. I'm just not ready to talk to her yet because, at the end of the day, I had to grow up. It's funny because I look back now and I remember so many people that were older than me, like, God, you're so mature for your age. You're so mature for your age. And I was like, oh, yeah, like I used to take it as a compliment. Like, oh, yeah, like I am, Yeah, I shouldn't have been. I never got to be a 16-year-old. I never got to be a 17-year-old. And then I had a fucking kid. I didn't get to experience my 20s the way everyone else experienced their 20s. Like, I had to raise a child, and I've always had to grow up faster than I was supposed to. I never got to experience the things that I was supposed to. When people say, let them be a kid, I never got to be a kid. I did as a younger child, but still, like, in the years where it mattered now, like, I struggle with a lot of relationship stuff because of the things that I went through from the time I was like 14, 15 to fucking 2 years ago, So it was frustrating because she didn't understand what was so wrong with my childhood because I had a better childhood than she did. So in her eyes, well, I had it better than her, so it couldn't have been that bad. And I'm like, well, Mom, that's not really how this works.
It's crazy. I had a kind of a similar conversation with my mom. My mom and my sister, like, they don't get along very well. I know my mom loves my sister, but my mom has a different love language than my sister. And my sister's pretty reserved and very to herself. Like, my sister's just, she's just been through a lot, right? And so, like, I'm very protective of her. So when my mom will call me and try to compare us to, I'm just like, you have to take responsibility for this. I was like, and I'll explain it to her. And I was like, when was the last time you had a conversation with my sister? When was the last time you had a conversation with Cindy? And she's like, well, she just always, and I was like, okay, do you know where it stems from though? And she'll be like, well, my parents, this and that. I was like, okay, but think about how that can affect a kid. I'm like, think about how that affected her. Did you ever tell her you loved her? Well, my parents never told you. And I'm like, well, then how do you know if they did? I was like, because if you never told Cindy that you loved her, how is she supposed to believe that you do? If you never told her that she could do anything in life, how is she supposed to believe that she can? If you never told her that, like inspired her to go after her hopes and dreams, how are you putting so much pressure on her to be somebody else when you never did that? Like, take accountability for that. I was like, the reason her and I are different is because my dad did that for me, in a sense, but I still, like, struggled with a lot of it. Like, it wasn't as the way that I'm, like, putting it in words, right? I was like, I'm more outspoken. I'm more driven. I'm more ambitious because I just changed my mindset. Like, I was very much like my sister, where my sister's depressed and she suffers through anxiety. And I totally understand. Like, and that's why, like, I do everything I can for her. But at the same time, when I was dealing with depression, anxiety, she was also helping me out. But my sister did a lot for me too. And so, like, whenever my mom wants to, like, argue with me, I'm like, no, this stems from you. And I don't want to hear it. And I don't want to hear what your excuse is. You have to see it. Put yourself in her shoes. You yelling isn't going to do anything. You picking at her isn't going to do anything. You criticizing her isn't going to do anything. I was like, how about you try to have a conversation with her without judgment, without yelling, and see where that goes. I was like, I bet you might just have a better relationship with her.
Yeah.
I was like, because my sister will buy her things and then my mom will criticize it. And it's like, you can't, she can only do so much.
Well, too, and like your sister buying her things is is she doing that because she's trying to gain your mom's attention? Is she trying to be accepted? Because that's something that I had to learn to let go of, is like, it wasn't until honestly pretty recently that it's like I've lived my whole life just wanting to make my parents proud of me, to not feel like the black sheep, to not feel like the failure and the loser because I'm the single mom, I'm not married, I don't have a career, I didn't go to college. So I've been trying, let me try this to see if I'm good at that and see if I can do that. Well, let me try this. Maybe my parents will be proud of me if I do this. Well, what if this? And I was living my life for them, trying to be this model child that they could be proud of. And it's like, well, wait a second. Like,
how the other parents are like, this is my son, he's in Yale.
Yeah, because my sister, granted, none of us really went to college. My sister, met a guy, and they now run 2 gyms together. They're married. They just had their first kid. My little brother went to the military, which is great. Like, he was an ROTC all through high school, but then now he's with a girl that I hope that he marries. Like, but, they had like such cookie cutter, like, no drama, I was fucking bringing, like, granted, I had serious long-term relationships with the men that I dated in my life, but there was always so much emotional and mental trauma with every single one of them, whether they were in and out of jail and I was bailing them out of jail, or they were drug addicts or selling drugs or treating me like shit, gaslighting me, manipulating me, cheating on me, all the things. And like, here I am, like, every other, relationship, bawling my eyes out to my parents because this guy broke my heart, Mm-hmm. Meanwhile, my sister and brother, like, are in successful relationships, and I'm over here and I can't even fucking get a boyfriend, which is not the end all be all at the end of the day. So, like, I don't want people to think that I think that way. But, it's just all this, like we've talked about in previous episodes, there is a hair touching me and I feel like there's a spider crawling on me. And
it's probably the universe trying to tell you not to beat yourself up, because let me stop you right there, Missy. Look at you.
No,
Look at everything that you've accomplished right now. Like, I'm proud of you. You have your own lash business.
No, absolutely. I'm definitely proud of me. I'm not saying that's how I feel now. I'm just saying
at the time.
Yeah, at the time. Like, I went
my hand was about to be
at the time, I went through such a huge, like, that was part of my growth, is like, I had to let go of trying to please my parents. And that was the point I was trying to make, is like, with your sister, like, is she trying to like build that relationship with your mom on false pretenses? Like even in just normal boyfriend girlfriend relationships, like, you go out of your way to do all these things for someone, hoping that they're going to love you and see how great you are. Mm-hmm. And then they never do, but you're sitting here giving instead of just accepting that they're not capable of giving you what it is that you're wanting in return.
I know my sister's love language is gift giving, because we never got gifts as kids.
Yeah.
We never got to really have Christmases. We never got to really do Thanksgiving. So, like, my sister, her favorite Disney movie is Cinderella. Mm-hmm. I think it's because she resonates with Cinderella very much.
Right.
I think she's always been looking for her Prince Charming to come find her and save her. And what I've been telling her is that she's got to save herself. And my sister is a very thoughtful person. She's very sweet. She's very caring, but she's very closed off. Like, she still puts up, like, if I tell her something and I'm being honest with her,
yeah,
she'll just throw up a wall. She'll ignore me for days. And I'm like, I get so frustrated, because I'm like, Cindy, if you're listening, please don't do that.
It's funny because
it makes me mad.
It's funny because I'm coming to realize that I'm not as emotionally available as I like to think that I am. And it's a hard realization to make and like have to accept, because it's like, for as far along as I have come with everything that I have been through, I'm still healing. And not in everything that I was before, but there are certain parts of me that were so traumatized over and over and over again that, yeah, I've broken down one wall, but there's probably like a couple more that I'm still learning to break down. And it's like, it's hard having to like, it's like, well, I'm ready to love someone. I'm ready to do this. I'm ready to do that. And it's like, but you're really not, because love is selfless. Love is not needy. Love is not an attachment. It's not clingy. And when you notice that you start doing those things, it's not love and it's not healthy.
Right.
In all aspects of life. friendships, relationships, parents, whatever.
Yeah. I think the more that I've been healing, the more I'm able to be like, just like I genuinely am learning to love myself more and more.
Yeah.
And I think that's why I probably have a pretty good relationship with Tyler. Hey. Because like,
it also helps that he's pretty awesome too, you know?
He's very understanding.
We like him.
He's very understanding and he's very patient. And it's really cool because we talk about things like he'll really good at reading body language. And I've told him before, in any of my past relationships, I've opened up to him more than I have, I think, with any other past relationships. Because all the other past relationships, I've kind of accumulated it and I've kind of put it together. They were all emotionally unavailable alcoholics.
Yeah.
Because I was an emotionally unavailable alcoholic.
I was going to say, yeah, you attract what you are.
Yep.
And that's another thing that goes into like the whole love is selfless thing is like, I sit here and I wonder why I keep attracting the same kind of man. And it's like, well, because technically I'm just a reflection of me. I'm clearly not as emotionally available as I seem to think that I am. And so there's something that I got to work on still. And, you know, until I figure that out or like fully understand what it is that I deep down is like still in me that I have to get through, like my focus is me. My focus is, you know, everything that I'm doing. And like that is the last thing on my to-do list.
I think it'll come with time.
Oh, yeah. Like I'm literally, the thought of having like a full-time boyfriend sounds so stressful to me.
I promise it's not.
No, I know. But just like with everything I have going on, it's just like one more thing. I can't do it.
No, I totally understand. But to anybody that is listening, I do want to point out that if you feel like a black sheep in your family,
just know you're not.
You're not alone. I felt that for many, many years, and it just starts with healing, and you can definitely change that mindset. I promise. Like, I literally was like the worst. You could not talk me. I'd be like, no, I'm like, I have the sadder story.
Okay, correct me if I'm wrong, and same for you. Correct me if I'm wrong, but is not the color black a mix of all the colors, right?
I think so.
So, okay. So then my logic has been right all this time thinking this. So, because I used to think I was a black sheep too. But what I came to realize and learn is like, no offense to my sister and brother because they're freaking amazing. And, you know, all the other brothers and sisters in the world. But I feel like the people who have always felt like the black sheep are usually the ones that are the most creative. Mm-hmm. And that's why, because we're so good at so many different things that we can't just be good at one thing. We want to be good at all of the things. Mm-hmm. And that's the way I try to look at it. It's like, think of it from that perspective instead of you not being good enough. You're just good at all the things. And I've looked up the term of that. I don't know what it is, and I'd have to look it up again. But there is a term for being good at multiple things and not being able to stick to one thing.
Yeah, it's called being a badass.
Well, yes, there's that term.
Wait, is it what? Diverse?
Well, yeah, that's another good word. No, but there's like actual, you know how there's like arachnophobia or there's like, you know, there's an actual term for it. And I've read it before because I was like, oh, wow, that's so cool. Like, I didn't know that there was, I mean, maybe they made it up in the last 10 years. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I think if you are interested, you guys, if everybody's listening, is that we do have an episode called Forgiveness. And if you listen to that episode, probably
it's
after
one
this
of our,
one.
It's one of the, like, I don't want to say one of the first ones, but it's within the top 10, I think, that we did. Mm-hmm. That, yeah.
I love that episode. Yeah. It just talks about just literally forgiving everybody. Like, you can't control everybody. Like, to me, like, how my mindset is that when I go out or when I'm engaging with people, I see inner children and then I see kind of like how they act, right? And it's just like, okay, if someone's acting out, it's probably because no one really ever corrected their behavior or so-and-so. So I see all these little wounded children that just sometimes are trying too hard to fit into molds that they shouldn't be filling in. But then you see the ones that are very, okay, the ones that like people idolize, like Prince, Freddie Mercury, Lady Gaga, like
which,
Miley
by the way,
Cyrus.
If you've ever listened, because I know Lady Gaga's put one out. I don't know about Prince or Freddie Mercury, but if like even people like Katy Perry, a lot of those people, like, everyone's gone through something, guys.
Yeah, like if you ever listen to, that's why I like listening to biographies or interviews, is because they all have dealt with depression, anxiety.
Especially being in the spotlight too. Like you think that okay, let me rephrase this because that's going to come out wrong. Yes, as normal people is what I will call us. We already go through what could be overwhelming to some, what could be a little bit to someone else, but we already go through our own version of what we consider anxiety and depression. And then imagine having like a spotlight on you. And then imagine having 50,000 people following you around with cameras and videos and trying to catch you doing something wrong or trying to make you feel bad because you eat meat or you don't eat meat or you don't do this.
And then having an opinion on it.
Yeah, and then your face being plastered all over the internet and in magazines and everyone talking about you when all you were trying to do was go to the grocery store.
Right. But what I want to point out on that note is that people look up to these people because of how bold and brave and confident that they may seem to be. And it's all because they're all living their true, authentic selves. Yep. And it's like when you start living your true, authentic self, you will radiate. Since I changed my mindset and started like my band, and then I started this podcast with you, and then changed my hair color, just changed the way that I was interacting with people. I've gotten more people compliment me and tell me you're such a badass. And it's like you can be a badass too. Just do what you want to do. Like, don't care what anybody thinks. Like, I'll wear things and people are like, wow, like I have this shirt that says support local female orgasms. I get so many compliments. I also get some very negative comments. But it's like people are like, I really want to wear a shirt like that. I just don't think I can. It's like, yes, you can. Just wear it. Don't care what people think. If that's something that you want to do, who cares? Because if you really think that people successful like Prince and Lady Gaga and stuff, if they listen to so much of what other people think, do you think that they would be at the level that they are?
Yeah.
And so it's like, I look at it like that. Like if there's this girl I work with and she's kind of like trying to figure out what she wants to do. And she's mentioned like how she really admires that we're throwing on these events. Mm-hmm. And I looked at her and I was like, you can do it too. I was like, you can totally do it. And she's
be an event planner.
Yeah. And she was like, I just don't know how. And I was like, if you'd like, I'll teach you. I
mean, I don't know how either. We just kind of wing it.
We wing it. We are not experts at this.
I mean, we're learning as we go, people. That's the thing at the end of the day that people, I think that everyone needs to realize is like, I didn't know how to do lashes, but then I went to school for it. And even when I was let me rephrase that. I went to school to be an esthetician. And we got to learn lashes for 1 week. 1 week in school. It was up to me after that point to take it farther if I was interested in that. They allowed me, they said if I worked on X amount of students, I would get a kit. So I did it. I worked on X amount of students to get my kit. What did I do after that? I hit up all my friends and I was like, hey, I need to practice doing lashes. Can you let me do your lashes? And I watched videos. I'm going to be attending some like extra lash courses. Like I had to literally Google and look up and how do I do this? How do I do this? How do I do this? Because I didn't know how to do any of it. I could have sat on my couch and said, I don't know how to do it. Maybe I'll figure it out one day.
Yeah.
Like everyone, like even when it comes to permanent makeup right now, is my next venture here. There's not really a lot of schooling for it. If it requires a tattoo license, you have to be cleared through the health department, and like a few TDLR things. But other than that, there's not like, I can't go to ANWeb. I can't go to, any of these schools. There's a couple schools that have programs for them. And yeah, they're like a couple grand, but like, there's no actual like training. Most of the training I can go, if you did permanent makeup and you've been doing it, there's like a course you could take to where you'd be authorized to train people or like give people certificates. And it's different in every single state, but like that's the training. So up until I take that training, it's me Googling and researching what permanent makeup machines are good to practice on, buying the practice skins, buying the pigments, and sitting there and drawing and practicing over and over and over and over and over and over and over again until I get it right.
Yeah. Basically, find something that you want to do. Doesn't matter what it is. It could be anything. Don't follow molds just because. I noticed a lot of bartenders have been going into like nursing, and it's because it's like the easy route.
I mean, I don't know about that because nursing is not easy.
Not everybody, but a lot of ones that have just.
I know.
Yeah, but to me, I'm just like, if that's not something that you want to do, or you're not passionate about it, don't do it.
Well, yeah.
Find something else that you want to do. Like, and that's what I was trying to explain to my coworker. I was like, because she went into nursing, she's like, I don't want to be a nurse. Like, then don't be a nurse.
That's why, honestly, like, for those
do whatever you want.
Yeah, for those of you that don't already know, is like, I was in nursing school, and I was only in nursing school because I wanted to be an injectionist, which, again, they do not have a specific career or a specific class or course that I can go anywhere in the state of Texas anyways, because Texas's laws are a little bit different, that I can get that. I would have to go to nursing school in order to get even the slightest bit of training, but even still, they don't go over cosmetic injections in nursing school. So it would still be something that afterwards I would just have to train under someone that's been doing it and learn from them.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, for crying out loud, you could like literally make up your own career because that's what people are doing these days. That's for sure.
Yeah. Like, I just want to be a content creator. That's my career.
Yeah.
Which
is a thing.
Yeah. Like with my band, I want to have fun doing that. I want to make a job out of that. That's a passive income to me.
Yep.
The VIP hosting thing at my work, I like it.
Pays the bills.
It pays the bills. But content creating is really where, like, I really like doing it. I like bringing people together. I like creating content. I want people to relate. I was just like, because to me, it feels like a sense of purpose. Like, there's this girl that, like, she posted something on Facebook the other day, and she said she was struggling because, you know, all she does is stay home with her kids, and then she works, and she feels like she has no friends. I literally reached out to her, and I was like, I'll be your friend. I will be anybody's friend. If you're feeling down, if you're feeling low, let me be your friend. I love making people feel better. Because I never want anybody to feel alone, because I know what that's like. And so, like, what I'm saying is that, like, if you're struggling with trying to figure out what it is that you want to do, or, you know, you're feeling like you're a disappointment to your parents, don't worry about what they think. Focus on what's going to make you happy and go do it. And just know that you have 2 girls in this room right now that will totally support you.
Yes, 100%.
Girl, gang. Like, I got you. Like, I will post you, blast you all over social media. I just, like, like, for many years, I just felt like I could not do anything. And I didn't believe the stuff that was on Instagram. I didn't believe those self-help books. I never had the energy. I never had the desire to read them. And finally, one day I did. And it was a total game changer. If you start applying to what they say and what they do, and you do it, I promise you.
It's uncomfortable and it feels weird and you might not believe it. But actually, here's a tip. If you are the type of person that you're like, that's fucking stupid, I don't believe that shit, and you want to try, I saw recently, just add what if. What if I was happy? What if I could do this? What if you're this? What if you're that? Put what if in front of it. Just allow your brain to get closer to thinking, I am happy. I am this. I am that. What if you are happy? How would that make you feel? You know? So play with the idea of believing it before you're able to fully believe it, because it is hard. It is hard to look in the mirror and tell yourself affirmations if you have gotten yourself to such a place where you're like, that's the dumbest shit I've ever heard.
I literally was
I was going to say, I was there.
I was like
I'm
that.
like, this is stupid.
Yeah, I was there.
I definitely was there.
But like I said, if you guys like this episode, I highly suggest to listen to the forgiveness episode.
Yep.
Or
if you know of someone that's in need to hear this episode or that one, send them the link. You know, just be like, hey, I saw this today. It made me think of you. Might make you feel better, etc. But you know where to find us. Instagram, Girls on Fire ATX. It has the link tree that has all of the links to our Spotify, Apple, iTunes, YouTube, all the great things. We do post new episodes every Monday at 12 p.m. Central Standard Time. Make sure to subscribe to our videos on YouTube as well. If you aren't already following all of our notifications, you can select in Instagram to have our notifications pop up more often for you.
Ooh, do that.
Yeah. But we love you guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. Until next time.
Okay, bye.